I spent 3 years and $64,700 renovating my family's home, only to discover their cruel betrayal. And that was the moment I chose revenge. I'm stringing Christmas lights along the roof edge when I hear them through the open garden window below. Mom's voice carries up clearly in the crisp December air. She thinks she's earning her place with those tools, Patricia says with a laugh that chills me more than the Oregon winter. Once the title's clear, she's gone. Well, she's always been handy, Savannah replies, her tone dripping with the same dismissal. At least we got a free renovation out of it. My hammer slips from my grip and clatters down the shingles. I freeze, strings of multicolored lights tangled around my fingers like Christmas snakes. 3 years of renovations, $64,700 of my own money invested, countless weekends sacrificed, all because Dad promised me equity in our family home when I returned to help Mom through her health crisis. "Callie, everything okay up there?" Mom calls, her voice suddenly honey-sweet. I swallow hard, forcing steadiness into my voice. "Fine, just drop my hammer." "Well, be careful, dear. We wouldn't want you to fall and hurt yourself." The concern sounds genuine, but now I hear what lurks beneath it, the same tone she'd use if a hired contractor had an accident on her property. My mind races back to 5 years ago. Dad, sitting across from me at my apartment, looked uncomfortable in his tweed jacket, too warm for the small space. "Your mother needs you, Callie," he had said, his economist's eyes calculating behind his glasses. "Move back home, help with her medical appointments, and you'll get a share of the house. It's only fair." I'd believed him, packed up my growing construction business, and moved back to Eugene. When Mom started suggesting renovations for the family's future, I offered my skills and checkbook freely. Her insistence that I cover vacation costs and medical bills seemed reasonable with the promise of equity waiting. That night, I carefully photograph every renovation receipt and every email exchange with my father. My fingers tremble as I sort them into folders on my laptop, ears tuned to the creak of floorboards in the hallway. The door opens, and Mom glides in with a teacup, her silk robe whispering around her ankles. "Still working? You're always at that computer or swinging a hammer. Why not join us in the living room? Savannah and Garrett are sharing their vacation photos." I close my laptop with a measured click. "Just making sure everything's documented properly for the family legacy," I say. My voice surprises me with its steadiness. She sets the tea beside me with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes, always so organized. "Savannah was just saying how proud we are that you've kept up with your little tool hobby all these years." My throat tightens. "It's not a hobby, Mom. It's a business, a successful one." "Of course, dear." She pats my shoulder, though not quite like Garrett's law practice. "Now that's a real profession. Savannah certainly chose well, didn't she? A proper provider." I think of the check I wrote last month for Mom's cruise, the renovation costs that now total exactly $64,700. The equity I was promised as the only payment for 3 years of work. "I provide just fine," I say quietly. "For yourself, perhaps." Mom straightens a photo of Savannah on my nightstand. "But Savannah is starting a family. That requires stability, a legacy, you understand." For the first time, I notice how her smile never reaches her eyes when she speaks to me, how it never has. I've been so busy looking for approval that I miss the calculation behind every interaction. "I understand perfectly," I reply, and discover I finally do. They will see what I will do next. The next day, I stand frozen in Patricia's home office, my fingertips still resting on her laptop keyboard. The screen glows with the evidence I wasn't meant to see. My vacation fund of $18,000 transferred to an account labeled Patricia's Personal. My knuckles turn white as I grip the kitchen counter, waves of nausea forcing me to breathe deeply through my nose. But it's the document titled Property Transfer that truly steals my breath. Savannah's name is highlighted in bright yellow, mine crossed out with a thick digital line. No equity, no ownership, nothing for my $64,700 investment or the thousands of hours spent with a hammer in hand. Another document catches my eye, renovation documentation. I click it open, and there it is in black and white. Every improvement I've made to this house listed as gifted labor with zero financial value assigned. Mom has been planning this for years while encouraging me to invest more of my savings, my time, my life. A floorboard creaks in the hallway. I close the laptop and move toward the kitchen sink, grabbing a glass just as Patricia rounds the corner. "What are you doing in here?" Her tone is light, but her eyes narrow slightly. "Just getting some water." The glass trembles slightly in my hand. "I thought you and Savannah were shopping today. Change of plans." She smooths her cashmere sweater. "Garrett joined us for lunch instead. He's with Savannah in the living room now." All three of you home early. How convenient. The words slip out before I can stop them. Patricia's smile tightens. We need to discuss some family matters. Join us in my office? The walk down the hallway feels like a march to execution. When I enter the office, the power dynamic is unmistakable. Patricia sits behind her desk, Savannah and Garrett standing beside her like loyal sentries. Family photos featuring only Savannah gleam from the polished surface. I spot my construction awards hastily shoved behind some books. Callie, dear, we need to talk about the house, Patricia begins. What about it? I keep my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. Well, these lovely improvements you've been making. Patricia waves her hand dismissively at the custom shelving I installed last month. While we appreciate your hobby work, this is my house. Hobby work? The words feel like acid on my tongue. Garrett steps forward, all tailored suit and practiced smile. What your mother means is that we've been documenting all renovations as voluntary family contributions. He slides a folder toward me. Legally speaking, there's no financial obligation to you. We're actually planning to sell next year, Savannah adds, not meeting my eyes. The renovations you've done will really boost the asking price. Selling? But Dad promised me. Your father isn't here, Patricia interrupts. And verbal promises aren't binding, are they, Garrett? Not without substantial documentation, he confirms with a small, satisfied nod. Patricia folds her hands neatly on the desk. You've always been good with your hands, dear. But this is a family matter, and Savannah is starting a real family. My gaze drifts to Patricia's drawer, partially open. A folder labeled Dean peeks out, my father's college friend. Another piece of the puzzle clicks into place. So I lose $64,700 in renovation costs and get nothing in return? My voice sounds distant to my own ears. Patricia's smile doesn't waver. You lived here rent-free, dear, while renovating a house I was promised partial ownership of, I counter. Garrett's expression hardens. Callie, I strongly suggest you exit gracefully. I'd hate to see problems arise with your construction business's permits or licensing. The threat hangs in the air between us. And honestly, Patricia adds, you really should find your own place at your age. This arrangement was always temporary. The full weight of their betrayal crashes down. 3 years of weekends and evenings spent renovating instead of building my own life. My retirement plans decimated without the promised equity. The crushing realization that I've always been an outsider in this family, useful for what I could provide, but never truly valued. I'll need time to think, I managed to say, backing toward the door. Don't overthink it, Savannah says softly. It's just business, just business. The renovation of our childhood home, the family legacy I thought I was preserving, reduced to a transaction where I'm the only one losing. Later, alone in my truck, I open my laptop with shaking hands. A notification appears, cloud backup complete. I click through to my archive, and there it is. An email from Dad, dated 3 years ago, as discussed. Your investment of labor and materials in the Eugene property will be compensated with 30% equity upon completion of major renovations. Saved, automatically backed up, legal evidence of the agreement. As I sit in my truck that evening, staring at the house I'd poured my heart into, I wonder if I should confront them immediately with what I know, or gather more evidence first. Immediate confrontation might force them to backpedal, but patience might reveal the full extent of their betrayal. What would you do when the people who should love you most see you only for what you can give them? I finish nailing the last shelf bracket in place, admiring how the custom built-ins transform the previously empty wall in Savannah's old bedroom. 3 days of work, perfectly executed. As I collect my tools, the mail slot downstairs clacks. Mom's voice floats up from the entryway. Callie, there's a letter for you. Looks important. Wiping sawdust from my hands, I descend the stairs to find Mom holding a cream-colored envelope. Her perfect fingernails tap against the paper as she studies the return address. It's from Harmon and Associates, she says, extending it with a smile that makes my stomach clench. Probably nothing, but we should discuss the future of the house soon. I've invited Richard, you remember our estate attorney, for dinner next Thursday, just to get everything organized properly. I take the envelope, noticing how she emphasizes our estate attorney. Why Thursday specifically? The whole family will be here, even your cousins from Portland. Everyone's concerned we're holding up progress on finalizing arrangements. Progress. As if my 3 years of work are an inconvenient detour. That afternoon, I find Savannah in the newly renovated sunroom, the one I'd spent 6 weekends crafting with custom window seats and built-in planters. She's directing a delivery man carrying an antique writing desk. Right there, she instructs, pointing to the corner where my drafting table stands. The old one can go to the garage. My drafting table where I've designed every improvement to this house. That's my workspace, I say, blocking the delivery man's path. Savannah looks at me like I've tracked mud across her clean floor. Mom said we could update this room now that you're almost finished. Garrett and I will be using it as a study. Later that week, I overhear Garrett on the phone in the kitchen I renovated, leaning against the island I built by hand from reclaimed oak. The kitchen's nearly perfect, but that center island doesn't match our vision. We'll probably sell it once everything's settled. Should fetch a good price. It's custom work. He chuckles, eyes flicking toward me as I stand frozen in the doorway. Handcrafted, rustic charm and all that. Mrs. Henley from next door corners me while I'm loading lumber into my truck the following day. Your mother mentioned you're finally moving on, she says, patting my arm. Such a shame. We've all noticed how much work you've put into that old house, but I suppose it's time you had your own place. My grip tightens on the 2x4 until splinters dig into my palm. That night, I discover my toolbox rearranged again. The precision squares I always keep on the left side are now on the right. My measuring tapes are tangled. My favorite hammer is missing entirely. I find it later in the garden shed, the handle mysteriously sticky. Sleep becomes impossible. I wake hourly, heart pounding, convinced I hear someone at my truck. I triple-check the padlock on my toolbox before going to bed, then check it again at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Monday morning, I find the renovation plans for the master bathroom, the last major project, soaked through. The elaborate tile design I'd sketched by hand is reduced to bleeding ink. Oh dear, Mom says, holding a dripping coffee mug. How clumsy of me. You'll have to redraw them. That evening, I install a small motion-activated camera in my truck's cab. The next morning, another in my bedroom doorway. By week's end, I have timestamps documenting every accidental tool relocation, every misplaced invoice. While searching for my backup renovation plans in Dad's old office, I discover a shoebox hidden behind his reference books. Inside are yellowed envelopes addressed to Mom in unfamiliar handwriting, dozens of them spanning 20 years. The name on the return address, Dean Harrington. The first letter I open contains details of a weekend in Cannon Beach. The dates align perfectly with Dad's economics conference from my childhood. The second describes financial arrangements. I don't need to read more to understand everything. At the lumberyard on Tuesday, Frank squeezes my shoulder as I inspect a shipment of cedar planks. Your dad stopped by yesterday, he whispers, glancing around to ensure we're alone. Asked about material costs for everything you've done. Said it was time he knew the truth. Thursday evening arrives with the scent of Mom's signature roast filling the kitchen. I enter to find her arranging white roses in a crystal vase, the one I carefully restored after finding it cracked in the attic. I hope you're not planning to make a scene tonight, she says without looking up. This house was never going to be yours. You were just helping family, like daughters should. My hands remain steady as I place my tool belt on the counter. Family doesn't exploit family. I've been a contractor to you, not a daughter. She sighs dramatically. You're being dramatic. This is why we couldn't trust you with inheritance matters. The words hit me like hammer blows, but for once, they don't leave bruises. The revelation washes over me with unexpected clarity. I don't need her approval. I never did. I've built homes for strangers who showed me more respect than my own family, I say quietly. That ends tonight. Frank arrives first, carrying a leather portfolio. Complete records of all materials purchased through my yard for the Monroe property renovations, 2022 through 2025, with current market valuations, he announces, handing me the binder with a wink. My business partner, Megan, follows with her professional photographer, documenting each renovation with before and after comparisons. The transformation in Mom's expression as strangers catalog her home is worth every splinter I've ever pulled from my fingers. For the first time in years, I stand at my full height in this house. When Mom attempts her usual dismissive glance, I hold her gaze until she looks away. Back in my bedroom, I assemble my digital portfolio, every invoice, screenshots of conversations with Dad promising equity, and a spreadsheet breaking down all $64,700 in renovation costs. The documentation of 3 years of exploitation, compiled with the same precision I used to level foundation beams. Just before 7, I slip downstairs to peek through the dining room door. There, already seated at the head of the table I refinished by hand, is Dad. His face is grim as he reviews a stack of documents, and he doesn't look up when Mom calls his name. I take a deep breath and walk forward, laptop under my arm, into the battle I've spent 3 years unwittingly preparing for. With my dad's support, they will see how I am. I arrange my documentation in precise order, each paper and photo a bullet in the chamber. Dad sits at the head of the dining table, the one I refinished by hand last winter, his face a roadmap of disappointment. Mom and Savannah enter together, their matching confident smiles faltering when they spot him. "Charles," Mom says, her voice honey-sweet but trembling at the edges, "we weren't expecting you until 7. I imagine there are quite a few things you weren't expecting, Patricia." Dad adjusts his glasses, a gesture I've seen thousands of times before important lectures. The estate attorney, Mr. Pemberton, glances between them, sensing the tension. Garrett follows behind Savannah, his lawyer's briefcase clutched like a shield. I clear my throat and open my laptop. Since we're all here to discuss the family property, I've prepared a comprehensive overview of my contributions. I connect my computer to the television installed during my second year of renovations. The screen flickers to life with a spreadsheet detailing every renovation, date, cost, and corresponding increase in property value. As you can see, I've invested exactly $64,700 of my personal funds, I say, my voice emerging steady, professional, the same tone I use presenting bids to clients. Additionally, these improvements have increased the property value by 43%, according to 3 independent appraisals. I click through photographs, before and after shots of each space I transformed, the kitchen with its custom island, the master bathroom with the marble shower surround I installed piece by piece over 6 weekends, the wraparound porch that previously sagged but now stands as the envy of the neighborhood. With each image, Mr. Pemberton removes his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Garrett shifts in his chair, whispering urgently to Savannah, whose smirk has vanished. "Most importantly," I say, clicking to the final slide, "I have Dad's email promising me equity in exchange for returning home and providing these renovations." Mom stands abruptly. "This is ridiculous. Callie has always had emotional problems. She misunderstood family conversations and—" "Patricia." Dad's voice cuts through the room like a table saw. "I've been conducting my own investigation into the family finances." Mom's face drains of color. "Charles, you never cared about the house before. Why start now?" "Because our daughter called me last month, concerned about your behavior." Dad opens a folder of his own. "I found your transfers to Dean's account particularly interesting." The room goes silent. Even the grandfather clock I restored seems to hold its ticking breath. "Dean?" Savannah asks. "Dad's college friend?" Dad slides several bank statements across the table. "Your mother's been transferring funds to him for years, including money earmarked for Callie's promised equity." Mr. Pemberton clears his throat. "Given these circumstances, I cannot in good conscience proceed with the property transfer as previously discussed." The silence stretches like drying wood glue. When Dad asks if I want to pursue legal action against Mom and Savannah, I find myself hesitating. Would seeking maximum financial compensation bring true justice, or would walking away completely, leaving them to face each other, be the more powerful statement? Before I can answer, Dad turns to Mr. Pemberton. "I want to formally acknowledge Callie's investment in this property. Her contributions represent significant financial and time commitments that must be protected." Frank, who arrived quietly during the presentation, steps forward. "As Callie's primary material supplier, I can confirm the quality and market value of these improvements. They're professional grade work, better than most contractors in the state." My business partner, Julia, pulls out her tablet. "I've prepared before and after comparisons with current market valuations. Each renovation Callie completed would have cost nearly twice as much if contracted commercially." Mr. Pemberton nods, scribbling notes. "I recommend immediate revision of the property documents to protect Ms. Monroe's interests. This situation has serious legal implications." Dad squares his shoulders. "I intend to ensure Callie receives fair compensation, regardless of Patricia's wishes. The property transfer to Savannah alone will not proceed." Across the table, Savannah's confident posture crumbles as Garrett turns to her. "Did you know about this?" he hisses, loud enough for everyone to hear. Mom stands, grabbing her purse. "I think we should continue. This another time when everyone's calmer." "Patricia," Dad says quietly, "for once in your life, please stay and face the consequences of your actions." I notice Mr. Pemberton now addresses his questions directly to me rather than Mom. The power in the room has shifted, like a house settling on its foundation. Dad glances toward the study door, the one room I hadn't renovated. "Patricia, I think we need to have a private conversation." As they disappear into the study, I realize I'm standing taller than I have in years. 3 days later, Patricia and Savannah corner me in the kitchen as I pour my morning coffee. Mom's silk blouse rustles as she leans against the counter I installed last spring. Savannah hovers beside her, both of them blocking my exit with practiced casualness. "We've been talking," Mom begins, her hands trembling slightly against the marble. "And we think there's a reasonable compromise here." I take a deliberate sip, noting how her eyes dart to Garrett, who lingers in the doorway, his legal pad tucked under his arm, always the attorney, even in family matters. "A reduced equity percentage," Savannah offers, her voice rehearsed. 15% instead of the 30% Dad promised. "It keeps the family together and you still get something for your contributions." Mom reaches for my arm, her fingers cool against my skin. "After all I've done for you, raising you alone while your father was always working." Her voice breaks with practiced precision. "I never thought my own daughter would turn on me like this. Fighting us will cost more than it's worth," Garrett adds from the doorway, "financially and otherwise." Mom's smile returns, thin and hopeful. "We can just be a family again and forget all this unpleasantness. Isn't that what matters most?" The coffee burns my throat as I swallow it down. For 3 years, I've swallowed everything else. Their dismissals, their manipulation, their lies. Not anymore. "I've been recording our conversations," I say quietly, setting down my mug with a solid thunk against the counter. "Since the night I heard you both through the garden window." Mom's face drains of color. Savannah's mouth opens, then closes. I pull out my phone, tap the screen twice, and their voices fill the kitchen. Once she's gone, we can finally renovate properly. Get a real contractor who knows what they're doing. I tap again. Charles never has to know how much she actually put into the house. The documentation shows it all as gifts. "You can't," Savannah starts. "I can, and I did." I pocket my phone. "And that's not all. Remember Adam's Historic Properties? They hired me last month after seeing your kitchen. The one you told your friends was designed by a professional from Portland." Garrett steps forward. "Callie, let's be reasonable. I've secured 3 major contracts in the last month alone. My company's booked solid for the next year." I look directly at Mom. "And I bought property on Willamette Street last week, my own place, with my own money." Their expressions shift from confidence to confusion. "I don't need this house," I continue, feeling lighter with each word. "I just needed you to face what you've done." The back door opens. Dad walks in, holding a manila envelope, his professor's posture unusually straight. "I've signed the papers, Callie. My portion of the property rights are legally transferred to you, effective immediately." Mom's gasp echoes through the kitchen. "Charles, you can't." "It's done, Patricia." His voice is quiet but final. I lead them all to the living room, the showcase of my renovation work. Family photos I'd carefully preserved and displayed line the walls. The custom built-ins I constructed frame the fireplace. The hardwood floors I'd spend weekends refinishing gleam in the afternoon light. Without a word, I begin removing only what I personally built or restored. The side table with hand-carved details, the reading lamp with a base made from reclaimed wood from our old barn, the floating shelves that took 3 weekends to perfect. By the time I reach the fireplace, half the room's furnishings are gone. "What are you doing?" Mom's voice pitches higher as I kneel before the mantelpiece, the one I'd carved for her birthday last year with roses matching her garden. I unscrew the first brass fitting, taking what's mine. "You can't take that. It's part of the house now," Patricia protests, stepping forward. I remove the custom mantle, revealing the old, cracked one beneath. "I'm not taking anything that isn't mine. I'm just no longer giving it away." Dad clears his throat. "Patricia, I'll be initiating divorce proceedings this week. I've already updated my will." Mom sinks onto the couch, her perfect posture finally broken. I turn to Savannah, whose eyes have gone wide and wet. "The house is yours now," I tell her, hefting the mantle under my arm. "Let's see what you build." Outside, Frank waits by his truck to help load my belongings. As we work, I overhear whispers from the neighbors about Patricia moving in with Dean, while Dad has already looked at an apartment downtown. My phone buzzes that evening. Savannah's name on the screen. I silence it, continuing to arrange my tools in their new space. There will be time for that conversation. But not today. A week later, the estate attorney's office calls about financial settlement negotiations. I listen to their terms, make my counteroffer, and hang up feeling strangely peaceful. When the knock comes at my new front door, I'm not surprised to see Dad's familiar silhouette through the glass. He hands me a handwritten letter without a word, then helps me position the reclaimed dining table in what will become my new home, built with my own hands, on my own terms. A year later, sawdust dances in the sunlight streaming through the workshop windows. I trace my fingertips across the cherrywood tabletop I've been sanding for hours, the silky smoothness confirming it's ready for staining. Behind me, Two of my employees debate the merits of different joinery techniques for a Victorian restoration project we landed last month. Miss Monroe? Ethan calls from across the workspace. The Sutherland invoice needs your signature. I straighten up, rolling my shoulders back. Just leave it on my desk. I'll get to it before lunch. No hesitation, no seeking approval, no second guessing whether I deserve to be the one making decisions. The Monroe Restoration and Construction logo gleams on the wall above my workbench, not hidden in a corner or apologetically small, but proudly displayed where every client sees it first. My phone rings. I answer without checking who's calling, something I never would have done a year ago when every call might have been Mom with another emergency. Monroe speaking. Callie, just calling to confirm we're still on for dinner tonight. Charles's voice sounds different these days, lighter, with genuine warmth that makes me smile. Wouldn't miss it, Dad. I hang up and turn back to my project wall, where photographs of completed restorations cover the reclaimed barnwood I installed myself. Each one represents a milestone, tangible proof of what I can build with my own hands. The knowledge sits comfortably in my chest now, no longer requiring external validation. 3 months later, I stand on the stage of the community center I helped renovate last summer, accepting the Eugene Historical Society's Preservation Excellence Award. The wood of the plaque feels substantial in my hands. We're so impressed by your work on the Fairview District homes, the Society president says. Do you have family here supporting you tonight? A year ago, I would have stammered excuses for Mom's absence. My father is here, I say instead, nodding toward Charles in the front row. He's been my biggest supporter. When I step down from the podium, several developers approach with business cards. I speak with confidence about load-bearing walls and period-appropriate materials, about respecting a home's history while preparing it for the future. My father's watch, the one he promised I'd receive when you truly come into your own, feels right on my wrist, like it belongs there. Later that week, I host a small gathering at my new home, a craftsman bungalow I purchased with my business profits. Frank, Charles, and my business partners raise glasses in the dining room. I restored myself to building things that last, Charles says, relationships included. Frank clears his throat and hands me a small wooden box. This belonged to my father, he says. 30 years I've had it, waiting for someone who'd appreciate it properly. Inside rests a hand-carved marking gauge from 1942, the brass inlay still gleaming. The following morning, I spread blueprints across my workshop table. The community project proposal outlines a program to renovate homes for single parents, providing stable housing while teaching basic maintenance skills. My phone pings with an email confirming I'll be teaching a masterclass on historical restoration next month. Need financial planning help with the expansion? Charles asks, reviewing the business projections I've drafted. I'm volunteering my services. I smile, thinking of David, the architectural photographer I've been seeing, who proudly shows my restoration photos to friends at dinner parties. I lift a framed photograph, just Dad and me, standing beside the first house I ever helped restore, and hang it on my workshop wall. As I step back to admire it, a question forms in my mind. As I hung that photo in my own space built with my own hands, I wondered if some family ties are worth preserving while others need to be renovated completely. What would you do? Try to rebuild what was broken with Savannah and my mother, or focus on strengthening the foundations that proved true when tested?